Politics Radio Company presents another issue of the Transformation Zone. And things are happening, things are changing. And now we wonder, how can we change things and make America and people all around the world healthy again? That's one of the issues of the day. Let's talk about that. Greetings once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Stan, the Radio Man, and helping us all on a Friday, flowing into the weekend, perhaps to have a little leadership conversation in the transformation zone. So that's what we're going to try and do. Thank you for taking a bit of your time to join me in this. Hey, the political season has been quite a rambunctious affair. And obviously, people are partisan on all sides. And it seems that a number of things are going to change. Now, whether those are going to be good changes or bad changes, obviously, depends on your point of view and obviously on what will be. But I was particularly attracted to one particular controversy because I think it has some implications for those of us who are, as we say, Friday is Transformation Day. It's also about Future Day. It's also about what does it take to be a leader day. And that was that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. of the legendary Kennedy family was finally named to be the Secretary of Health, and Human Services, a major government organization responsible for about 90,000 employees, at least right now. And of course, a number of them might lose their jobs as the political controversies continue. But there were a number of reasons why his nomination was controversial. But let's just face it, a man who was, as a young man, addicted to heroin and cocaine, and went through some terrible addictions, and is now in charge of health and human services, certainly left a number of things to be decided or thought about. Well, he came out politically the winner of it, and now we will see what will be. But that's not particularly the issue I wanted to think about or talk about. You see, the thing that we've oftentimes said in the transformation zone is those of us who are in leadership in this arena, trying to make those things happen, eventually I need to help you, or you need to help me, or we need to help each other develop a reasonable TOC, a theory of change. Why do people change? How do people change? How can you get people to change? People don't want to change. We all know that. We can manage change. We can deal with change. We can be a change maker. But how do people change? And then, as my friend Joe will then say, how can we get people to engage in or jump in or be a part of not only change, but transformations? And of course, his upcoming book is about how do we go to that higher stage of change, which is truly transformations. What is a transformation? How can it be brought about? How can we survive it or use it? Or what will happen as a result of doing that, particularly in the business world? But then, of course, also very much into our personal world, because those two always interlap, they always interconnect. Well, what's your theory of change? Think about that. Now, a lot of people in the education field, they think that, well, if you read books and go to school, education can change people. The pastor preaching from the pulpit thinks that if you listen to his sermons and read the Bible, that will change you. There are consultants, yes, consultants and coaches who say, well, if you listen to us and do what we tell you, we will help you change. Well, there's an old joke about that, which I can tell somewhat on myself and on others. And the idea is that what is a consultant? What is a coach? Well, they're a person who takes all your money and leaves no change. Yes, double meaning intended. What do you believe is true about how people change? Now, in his explanation for his life, Robert Kennedy made a number of stories and admissions about his life, and it has been a traumatic and maybe transformative life. Yes, he was a drug, a cocaine and heroin addict. And he began that journey when he was in college, and he found out that the drug experience was very helpful to a young man who had all kinds of other issues in his life, and that helped him. Well, uh, that became a part of his legacy. Now he claims, and he has says that he's been sober, that he's been free of this for over 40 years now, and is trying to lead a life of purpose and meaning and fulfillment. And he said in a testimony the other day that when he was confirmed to this, um, he actually said that in my morning prayers, I thanked God for the opportunity that I might have with my checkered past, that maybe I could actually be in a position to help people in a great, significant way. All right. That's the narrative, that's the story, and I don't think anybody will get upset with me just repeating the narrative and the story, because that's what happened, and that's his story, and that's his experience. But it does lead us to this question. The point of his nomination is that we are people, we have a eating problem, that we eat a lot of the wrong things, and so we have obesity as a major social and health issue. We have a chronic illness problem where so many people suffer from chronic illnesses. We have depressions. We have massive addictions. All of these are things that plague the human condition. And America, even though it's one of the more powerful nations and certainly one of the richest of nations, um, doesn't seem to be doing any better, and sometimes worse than other countries, in those key social well being issues. The issue of transformation, as my friend Joe has pointed out, is an issue of human flourishing. How do we help people gain a state of human flourishing? Uh, a shalom is the term from the Jewish tradition, where there is really a deep sense of peace and well being in our lives, that we truly live lives of purpose and meaning and peace and hope. How do we get there? Well, Mr. Kennedy has said that he thinks he knows some of the things that might help. Um, he wonders whether we are over vaccinated with a medicine that sometimes doesn't work, or that we are over medicated, and that we are not doing a number of the right things that are holistically healthy. And so the drug culture, the drug companies, the medical practitioners, the educators, everybody who is very much involved in the issue of human well being has an opinion on what might happen, because he has been put in charge of this major organization. Well, please let me help reassure you by one of my change beliefs, and that is uh, political political situations and political solutions are generally illusions. Um, Attempting to solve problems and have solutions that are primarily political do not work. It requires something significantly else. Now, I'm also a bit of a rationalist, but I'm also quite a mystical rationalist. So I'm very much open to all kinds of other transcendent, spiritual, relational, emotional things that go on in my life. And maybe those are some of the elements which will help me survive and maybe thrive and maybe flourish. But here's my point for you right now to think about. Uh, you can check out your own situation, your own story about what is happening politically. And you can very much take an opinion on whether you think Robert Kennedy is on the right or wrong track in terms of where he wants to go. But it's a big issue, and each and every one of us will deal with it. You know, our health, our well being, our getting older, all of those things will significantly be affected on some of the policy changes and some of the laws and societal norms that come into being as a result of what is happening. But let me just simply remind you that the one thing that did strike me about Robert Kennedy is that he said, and I hadn't heard this before, that part of his solution was he said it was AA, alcohol, good old Alcoholics Anonymous, that finally really helped him overcome. Now, there are a lot of people who think that's a lot of malarkey, but there are millions of people who claim that AA saved their lives. And uh, he does, as I know a number of my friends who are in AA do, they check in daily, either in person or in just personal contact with their colleagues in AA. As one of my friends said, he said, I've been sober for 35 years. He says, but you know, I think I could fall off the wagon anytime. That's just who I am. And I sometimes just need help to make sure I don't. Many of us can empathize with those feelings of failure or uh, the inability to make sure that we can really stay on track. He claims that mental and emotional and physical well being are also very much connected to spiritual well being. And he says that was not anywhere near my natural inclination at all. I wouldn't have believed any of that stuff. He said, but I've come to the point where I simply say that, yes, we will need to make America healthier again, but we may need to know that there are other issues and situations and other ways that will go into that mental, emotional, and health and good living, life well lived being. And he says many of them are rooted in what will be called the spiritual condition of each person. That's what he believes. I oftentimes say that spiritual primarily means these things. First of all, it is what do you believe is important? What is priority? Well, that's a spiritual issue. Uh, what is the meaning and purpose of life? That may be a spiritual issue. And then ultimately, how shall we then live? That could also be a spiritual issue. And then, how can we create a better life? How can we actually live as fully transformed people and sharing that transformational experience? How can we invite people into the transformation zones and find that as a result of that invitation, that something significantly can truly change, that indeed there is hope. There is hope for peace. There is hope for peace on earth. There is a possibility that wars might be ended. There is a possibility that diseases might be cured. There is a possibility that we can not only, as one of my friends has challenged me, he said, Stan, it's not about changing the world. It's not about making the world better. It's about maybe creating a different world. What do you think about that? Well, end of my conversation. I would love for you to respond. Please do so Reach out to me at stanhouston@gmail.com, stanhouston@gmail.com, and join the Transformation Zone conversation. We'd love to talk to you, maybe invite you to be a part of this conversation on how can transformations actually lead to better living, not through chemistry, as the old chemical companies used to say, but how can there be better living through transformed lives and experiences and sharing that with others? We'd love to hear from you. Once again, stanhouston@gmail.com. stanhouston@gmail.com. And perhaps you can join my transformation gang as we put together people who want to share their own stories and hopefully make sure that maybe we can be helpful to one another. All the best and blessings to you. By the way, in the program notes, you can check a link, and that will mean that my robot, Stan's robot, will have taken this and made a page or two summary of the whole thing. And so you can kind of think about it later on by seeing what my robot said about my little 15 minutes here. And maybe you could use that to be helpful to you and useful to you. In fact, I would encourage you to duplicate what I'm doing, only make it better because it's from you, for you, and for others. All the best. Take care and bye for now.